What we focus on, we find. What we focus on seems to become real to us, starts showing up everywhere. And there's a lot of different ways we can direct our focus intentionally. And one of the greatest tools to direct your focus in a service call or in life generally is the types of questions that you're asking yourself. Consider one of the most popular questions we like to ask ourselves, and that is the question, why? Now, there's context where this actually works. When I'm asking myself about the purpose of something, why do I do what I do? That's a good question. But for the most part, when we ask the why question, this is steering us to something that happened in the past. Why did you do that? And I mean, consider that. For those of you who have kids, if managers ever asked a technician, why did you do that? What's the only possible response to this? It's defensiveness. This will force the person you're asking to take a defensive position. Why did you do it? Well, because I'm a moron. I mean, what do you want me to say about that? All right, so that's the why question. As much as possible, we want to avoid that. Let's shift our focus to a better question. If we're talking about stuff that happened in the past, what we really want to ask is, what happened? If we ask what happened, now we're going to get focused on facts. This happened, that happened, this other thing happened. And notice that I don't have to be defensive about it. I can just say those are the things that happened. The most powerful question you can ask yourself is how? How will I go from where I am now to where I want to be? How will we avoid what happened from happening again in the future? So now this is a forward process question. This takes the person's mind and says, what am I going to need to do to now move forward? How do I create the change that I want to create around this? Let's shift our focus now to how these questions apply to the customers. See what I just did there? How these questions apply to our customers. Forward focusing on our customers. Now, when we show up at the customer's front door, they probably have some why questions. Why did this happen? Why do I have to have a technician? Why did I have to take time off work? All of those things elicit all of this negativity, and they're living in that space, and it's natural and it's normal and it's happening unconsciously. So we're okay with it. It's just there. We need to acknowledge that it's real. Now, we need to shift our focus as technicians to what happened, and that's just gathering the facts, and how are we going to make it better? All right? Now, inside how are we going to make it better, there's two different distinct questions that I want to talk with you about for just a moment. The first question that we typically ask ourselves and that the customer's asking is, what's it going to take to fix it? And this is a good question. Clearly, we need to answer this question. It's the reason we were called out. This limits our focus, however, to an isolated thing that's going on. And what's magical about plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical is that there's always more than one thing going on. That system expands through the entire home, and part of our responsibility is to understand thoroughly what's going on in that home. It's why we do a thorough evaluation of the entire system. And so how do we switch our focus? If our entire focus through the whole thing is, what's it going to take to fix it? Our options are going to be extremely narrow. And everything we're going to present to our customers is going to be problems. You have this problem, you have that problem, you have the other problem. Here's how you should fix those. Now be the customer in that scenario. It's not a great place to be when all of the options you're being presented are to solve problems. It's great, we want to solve problems. Here's another question you might consider asking yourself going into the call. What's it going to take to make it awesome? Now just allow your mind to go there for a moment. Imagine the last customer that you were just with to visit, yesterday perhaps. And if you had asked yourself the question, just unconsciously in the back of your mind, what's it going to take to make this awesome? What sort of options might you have come up with? What sort of things might you have seen that you didn't see before? And notice the reason that you're seeing them is because your focus has shifted to the types of questions that you're asking yourself. See, our brains all work like Siri. When you ask Siri a question, she spits out the answer. What is 0 divided by 0?
Imagine that you have 0 cookies and you split them evenly among 0 friends. How many cookies does each person get? See, it doesn't make sense. And Cookie Monster is sad that there are no cookies. And you are sad that you have no friends.
When we ask our brains a question, it unconsciously just begins searching for that answer. What we focus on we find. What we focus on becomes real. What we focus on seems to be everywhere. So my challenge to you in this wake-up call is to consider your focus. Consider the types of questions that you're asking yourself, not just in your customer scenarios, but in life. Are you asking yourself a bunch of why questions? Why is this happening? Why? So you're just going to end up in a really negative place. Are you asking yourself how questions? Better yet, how can you start asking yourself how questions today? What how questions are out there for you to ask yourself to move forward in a direction that you actually want to move forward in? Identify what it is that you want to accomplish as a technician in the world that you live in the job that you have. And ask yourself, how can I get there quickly and enjoyably starting today? And watch what happens. We just shifted the focus of your attention by asking that type of a question. How can I get there quickly and enjoyably starting today? And then when you get in front of your customers, remember the types of questions that are going on in your mind. If you're asking what's it going to take to fix it, that's what you're going to find. And that's important. And when you've got that, switch gears. And I'll invite you to consider asking yourself, what's it going to take to make this awesome? Notice the types of things that you start to notice as you change your focus. We'll see you in a future wake-up call.